I remember you so clearly, the first one through the door, and I return to find you drifting too far from the shore.
Howdy folks, this is Dan Gross for the Rochester Indie Musician Spotlight and Three Heads Brewing. Today, I'm sitting down with Brian MacDonald, the Rochester resident for the month of December, finally bringing it home after an excellent year of residencies. Brian is the lead singer and songwriter for one of Rochester's most beloved folk bands, the Honey Smugglers, and we're very glad he invited us into his little cozy space today to chat. So Brian, thank you so much for your time, my friend.
Welcome to my cozy space.
The cozy space, that's it. What is it, the honey hole?
This is the honey hole.
That's it.
Yes.
Where all the magic happens. So let's start off.
Some magic.
We got a lot to look forward to with this one. We have a record 6 Rochester Residency shows, but before we get to those, let's start off nice and easy. Are you a Rochester native?
Indeed I am. Yes, I was born at Genesee Hospital.
Whoa.
R.I.P.
I was going to say, another Jeff Dale in the background. There's another fellow at Genesee Hospital.
Nice.
Got a nice bonding moment right there.
Yeah. So June 3rd, 1989, born at Genesee Hospital. I was raised in Penfield, though.
I think we can count that as Rochester for the
I'd
purposes
say,
of the
we
spotlight.
can consider that.
So tell us about some of the stuff you were listening to when you were younger that was formative for you.
So, it's a great question. I've always listened to the Beatles. Mm-hmm. The Beatles are pretty much in my blood, you know. It's something that my father raised me on. Actually, you know, just to kind of go into that, both of my parents have really great taste in music. So I was raised on, you know, a ton of classic rock. You know, my father pretty much lived through that era, late 60s, early 70s. So, you know, growing up as a kid, listening to a lot of Allman Brothers, Beatles, Stones, I mean, you name it, like Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, even Bonnie Raitt, like, you know, I was raised on the good stuff.
That's a nice shout out to Bonnie Raitt right there. I'm surprised that hasn't come up yet here on the spotlight, but that's a good one. So when did you first start singing?
Well, pretty much always like sang my whole life. When I was a little kid, I was like 4th, 5th grade, I would sing in chorus, and they would give me like the solos in the performances.
You were a choir soloist.
I was a choir boy.
That's it.
Yeah, I was a choir boy. I mean, I didn't know what the hell I was doing back then, but, you know, they gave me the solos. So I used to do that. I always really, you know, felt comfortable performing in front of crowds. So it's just something that I've, you know, done my whole life. Not really in a, like, you know, professional sense by any means, but just something I've always really loved to do. I mean, driving around in the car, just singing basically all day. Yeah. The job that I have right now, I'm out driving a delivery truck, delivering local food, pretty much singing all day long. So just something that, you know, I've just done.
Yeah. I do the same thing in the News 8 van, which would probably explain all the sideward glances I do.
I have.
We need to share this story. So I was out with one of our great reporter and weather guys, James Gilbert, and I see you. I'm not going to say you were going fast, but you were going faster than me, and you drive past. You were definitely singing along in the car, and I turned to James like, "Oh, that's Brian MacDonald. He sings in one of the coolest folk bands in town." I turn on the Honey Smugglers, gun it, drive next to him. I was like, Brian MacDonald. So that is true.
That's awesome.
That did happen. So
coincidentally, I was practicing for my residency, which I've been doing for like the last bunch of months. So
cosmic.
I guess so. That's really
it worked
funny.
out well. So in addition to singing in choir, did you ever have any formal musical training?
I did. I grew up playing saxophone. So when I was in 4th grade, not by choice, I'll say. Not by choice. I actually wanted to play flute, Mom and Dad. I wanted to play the flute.
I'm not going to read into this situation.
Yeah, no, it's okay. But I wanted to play the flute, and my older brother, when he was in 4th grade, he wanted to play saxophone. So my parents bought an alto sax for my brother. After 2 years, he gave it up. I'm 2 years younger, so I got into 4th grade. The saxophone was already purchased. My parents were like,
"Makes sense.
Flute, I don't think so. You're going to play the saxophone." And I said, okay. And so I picked up the saxophone. I really loved it. I excelled in the saxophone. I played, you know, throughout high school and a little bit into college. I actually shameless plug here. I was the first chair all county tenor sax player in 8th grade. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's funny
That's
because
something.
It's funny because the second chair kid was like way better than me. I just scored higher on the solo fest. So
Look at that. No,
but I
that's
excelled.
fun. I mean, the Dallas Mavericks didn't win an NBA championship. It does happen.
Sick reference, bro.
Yeah, wasn't that good? we're bringing out all the stops here in the Rochester Musician Spotlight.
It's true.
Any formal training singing though?
No.
Yeah.
Not at all.
So
Not at all.
let's talk more about the singing part. When did you start? I mean, you mentioned you were always comfortable performing with people in choirs. When did you start singing out in more of the thing you're doing now, like in front of a band?
So, I guess it really goes back to 2012. I did a volunteer program through AmeriCorps, and I was down in Mississippi, and they had this old chapel on the campus there, and there's this piano in the chapel, and I used to go in there, and I don't know how to play piano really at all, but I'll go in and kind of like, sound things out. And then I started kind of writing some things, and there's actually a couple tunes that the Honey Smugglers now play that I had written on that piano.
Wow.
And so, but like I said, I felt comfortable singing in front of people. That was always like with an accompaniment, with a chorus behind me type of thing. I was cool with that, but just being just me in front of people, super shy. Anyway, so I'm there starting to write a little bit and sing and showing friends and everything and just being really shaky, being really really nervous. And it took a lot of encouragement for a while from friends, people in the AmeriCorps program, just telling me, hey, you got a great voice. You should keep singing. You should keep doing this. I'm like, I don't know if you guys are,
yanking my chain.
Yanking my chain. Like, but it took a lot of encouragement. McKella Allen is a friend of mine from those days. If you're watching, what's up, McKella? She really, really, really encouraged me to really take it somewhere. Not that it, I'm going to make a career out of it or anything, but just show people what you have, show people your talents, do this and that. And so I did. And right around that same time, I saw a band called Cabinet for the first time. And they, one of my favorite bands that I've ever listened to or seen. And they're kind of doing this thing where it's, a blend of bluegrass and jam and rock and kind of like this new sound that I had never really experienced before. This was in Appalachian Mountain region. So we're traveling through there. I see this band, fall in love with that sound, and the next week I bought a mandolin. So I was starting to write these songs on piano, and then I bought this mandolin because I was so inspired by this sound, and so then I started writing songs on mandolin and yada yada yada.
So you're self-taught on the mandolin?
Yes. Yeah. I did take lessons from Ben Proctor for a little while, from Crooked North.
Near and dear friend to the spotlight, Mr. Proctor.
Yes. Ben was very patient with me. So kind of going back to the saxophone days, I excelled in the saxophone, but I never liked lessons.
Right.
I didn't really do well with like the structure with music. And that kind of, Ben could say this too, that it just doesn't really work for me. So I took lessons from Ben, trying to like figure out the traditional sounds and everything. But I pretty much have taught myself how to play chords essentially.
Right. And and in your current project now, I do want to come back to the songwriting thing because I do have a nice story to tell. But why don't you tell us about how the Honey Smugglers formed with these newfound singing and mandolin playing skills? Yeah,
so I finished up the AmeriCorps program, moved back into town, and an old friend of mine, Mr. Joe Delaria, our guitarist, I saw Facebook's an amazing thing. It's incredible that the only reason that this band really came to be is because, I can't say it's because of Facebook, but a lot of it, and it'll come up again in this story.
Yeah.
A lot of it's because of Facebook. So I saw on Facebook that Joe was working with Sean Rotolo, who, I don't know if you know Sean Rotolo or not, great bass player, local, was working with him on sort of like a cover project. And I saw that they were like messaging each other or something on Facebook. And I was like, oh, I want to be part of that. And so I call up Joe and I'm like, hey, Joe, he's an old friend.
Yeah.
We went to elementary school together.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I was like, hey, I want to be part of this. So I started going over to Sean's house with Joe, doing like classic rock covers, like Cocaine and like, whatever. We weren't doing cocaine. We were singing Cocaine.
Thank you for the clarification.
J.J.
We do
Cale.
not condone any drug use here on the Rochester.
We do not condone drug use.
Drinking beer is a different thing. And whenever you drink Three Heads beer, please do it responsibly. Thank you.
Ding!
Right.
So,
Yes. Thank you.
so anyway.
Yeah.
So I would go over there and we'd, sing songs and blah, blah, blah. But then afterwards, it'd be, I'd be like, oh, I got some time to kill. I don't have to work tomorrow because I wasn't really working at the time. I was working at a sub shop. And Joe and I would hang out at his apartment. And I felt comfortable enough to show him some of these songs I was writing. And Joe was super receptive and throwing in, his take on all of it. And we worked a lot of these songs out together. We were doing that for a little while. Playing open mics here and there, Boulder Coffee, this and that. And then through Facebook, again, I saw that Steve Burke, who is our bass player, I saw that he was moving back to Rochester. He had made some sort of post on Facebook saying, I finished law school. He's a lawyer. Finished law school.
Don't think
moving
I knew
back
that.
to Rochester.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve. He's big time. Big time.
Big time.
So he was moving back to Rochester. I remembered seeing Steve at Boulder Coffee House for an open mic years before when I was like 16 years old. He was playing bass. He was playing banjo. The reason I knew Steve is because I played baseball with Steve when I was 12 years old.
Wow.
So, yeah. So 12...
There's a lot of full circle moments here. With
So
this band.
12 years old, we're playing baseball together. I didn't strike out that year, by the way. Back to the sports thing.
That's
Did
impressive.
not strike out.
Yeah.
Yes, my dad kept stats. It was great. So 12, we played baseball. 16, I saw him play banjo. And then 22 or 23, I see he's moving back to Rochester. I send him a message. Joe and I take a video of one of my songs, Peace of Mind. Send it to Steve. Steve shows up to the next practice he had learned it on banjo, on cello, on guitar, and worked out vocal harmonies. And I was like, whoa, like we're onto something. So the three of us were doing our thing for a while. There were a few other, members for a little bit that, joined in and played with us for a little bit of time. But, we didn't really start booking shows until we had the full 5-piece band, which happened a little later on.
And quickly before we go on our next couple things,
Yeah.
who's currently in the band now, just so we can have for the record?
Yeah, so we got Dylan Niver on drums. He's our newest member. We got Zach Lejeski on the
Rochester resident.
former Rochester resident.
The month of March.
Month of March, that's right. March with Zach.
Yep.
He is actually now, I've always said viola because that's what he's always played, but he now has a 5-string violin.
Ooh.
Electric violin, yes.
Wow.
So our violinist, Mr. Zach Lejeski, Joe Delaria on the guitar, Stephen Burke on the upright bass, Scott Kalpin, formerly of Mulberry Soul and Cabin Killers and fantastic player, and then me.
Awesome. It's really interesting that you bring up that song. You and I have this cool relationship in that pretty much before the Rochester Residency, we didn't know each other. And we've gotten to know each other through the Rochester Residency. That's a cool thing that this really does bring people together, that we've been able to get to know each other through this. And the other thing I wanted to share is it was actually at Zach's residency. And Anthony DeCosmaker, who's a great guy and musician in town, got up on stage and played a Honey Smugglers song. And it happened to be Peace of Mind.
Yeah.
And I do have your reaction on video. But I do want to get your thoughts on it. What was going through your mind in that moment when you saw someone else doing a song of yours?
It's very special. Anthony is a really close friend of mine, and I don't really have words for that. It's an amazing thing. I mean, I'm someone, I respect songwriting so deeply, and I've always kind of felt self-conscious about my songwriting. I know that people tend to like certain songs or whatever, and have given me a lot of praise, but at the same time, I'm no John Lennon, I'm no Paul McCartney, I'm no Elliott Smith. These are people that at Jason Isbell, people that I'm like obsessed with, their songs, and so I hold those guys in such high regard, and women, Ani DeFranco, there's so much good songwriting out there. I've kind of never felt that I own up to that, and so when somebody compliments me in a way of covering a song of mine, that makes me feel. You can't even describe what that makes you. I was almost in tears, and it was beautiful. It was really beautiful. I don't even know what else to say about that because, it's very, very special for me. Very special.
And moving right along into your Rochester Residency record of 6 shows in a month. Yeah. That's a lot, man. And you've been prepping these for a long time. We appreciate all the hard work. So let's start off Thursday, December 6th. Let's Duet. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so this is just something I've been wanting to do for a long time. When Jeff first asked me about this residency, it was one of the first ideas that I had where I, basically just want to invite any musician friend that I have to join me on stage so that I can sing songs that I love that the Honey Smugglers don't play.
Right.
It's essentially it.
And that's cool.
Yeah, and so got some really cool stuff planned. It's going to be a long list of a bunch of really great musicians and some awesome songs. I'm really excited for that one.
I'm not gonna make you list down everybody, but can you just kind of toss a few names their way so we can get?
Well, we got pretty much everybody from the Honey Smugglers that are going to be joining on. Let's see who else. Sean Jones. So you're familiar with Sean? Yep, he is in Seth Faragolzia's band, 23 Sages and Multibird.
Yep,
fantastic musician. We're going to be doing a couple. I had name dropped Elliott Smith earlier. He's actually a huge Elliott Smith fan too. So we'll be doing a couple of those tunes. Colin Jones will be joining on from Haywa, Ocular Panther, and Stare Nest. I'll leave it at that.
All right. We'll have to find out the rest. And this is also a benefit concert.
It is.
Featuring Bethany House. It's a shelter for homeless women and their children.
And their children, yeah.
So what inspired you to make this a benefit show, and why this charity?
I feel that there's so much that we can do to give back as people and as musicians, and I really feel that I don't do enough benefit work, and so it was just a good opportunity to do that. Really. Yeah.
No, it makes sense.
Why not?
No,
Why not?
No, exactly. And it's a great cause, and it's going to be a lot of people celebrating that as well. The day after that, that's a Friday. This is going to be a Postal service show with Hybrid Beats, a.k.a. Sean Drogan, friend of the brewery and friend of the Spotlight. He actually came on in 2017 when he was doing a Fringe show with Dave Ravello. So why don't you tell us about this Postal service show?
Yeah, so Postal Service is one of those... This album is honestly one of my favorite albums of all time. When I first heard it, my friend Caitlin Phelps in high school, I was probably 16 years old. I'm sitting there in history class, and it was like we were like doing busy work,
right? And
I had my little Walkman, with the anti-skip.
I did. I think I did not have the Walkman with anti-skip.
Oh man, you missed out.
Well, you did.
You could ride the bus and it wouldn't skip.
No, it was
amazing.
I had the Walkman mini disc player.
Oh,
that was cool.
What?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 4 years younger than you, so I missed out.
That's true. Yeah.
I missed out on some of the coolest. I missed out on the anti-skip Walkman. That's a bummer. Just a little bit. I was on the tail end. Anyway.
So I'm sitting there in history class, and my friend Caitlin goes, "Listen to track number 2, which is Such Great Heights, which is like their, probably their most popular song. Listen to track number 2. It's like Techno Raindrops." So I was like, all right.
That's a great band name. Oh my God.
Yeah, just like Techno Raindrops. So I put it in, and I was like, sure enough, Techno Raindrops. Anyway, so that record, it's from front to back and Sean Drogan put it perfectly. He said it's like ear candy, which it really is. There's so many unique sounds, amazing melodies. The lyrics are beautiful. Just the whole piece together is phenomenal. And something that I've sang along to since that day, since the Techno Raindrop day. And it is ambitious. Sean is putting in so much work into this. Sean is meticulously listening to every track and replicating his own. He's basically finding these sounds on the Logic program that he uses, which is a music production software.
Right, and for those who don't know, Sean's project, Hybrid Beats, it's like a half acoustic drum kit, half drum pad, sample pad, depending on the setup. He might have a keyboard as well, so he has access to the full range of samples and digital and acoustic drum sounds, for those who don't know.
Yes,
right.
yeah,
so
precisely.
He's putting all that together, and who else is playing on this show?
Yeah, and so Steve Burke from the Honey Smugglers, we'll be playing some guitar and keyboards, also doing some harmony vocals. And Rita Proctor from the Crooked North, that is Ben Proctor's wife.
I love all these TCN shout-outs right now. We don't have
TCN, nice.
I know it's not bad. I don't know if I came up with that myself, but I know I'm the only person at their shows who goes TCN.
Oh, I'm gonna start doing that.
Yeah,
I'll see you at the next one.
That should definitely be a thing. Yeah, Jeff.
Let's
Dale.
do that, Rochester.
Yeah, Jeff Dale gets it.
Let's do that, Jeff Dale.
So that'll be really fun. And then and then the next week, Thursday the 13th. I love that in all these residency months, we all know they're going to be good, but there's always one for each person where they kind of put the extra special circle around it. This one is going the distance. Tribute to Cake.
That's right.
There's so much I want to ask, but first I'll just let you take it away. Why Cake? Okay. And tell us about putting it together.
I think Cake is one of the coolest, most unique bands to ever exist.
Yeah.
I think, it's just, who uses a vibra-slap that often? Honestly. Yeah. You know what I mean? And makes it sound good. Right. And makes it work.
Right.
You know? And just, it's crazy. The group that I've put together for this, we're all Cake fans. For the most part. I think there's one member where it's ooh, I'm gonna have to work on those.
Right.
But for the most part, everybody that's part of this is hardcore Cake, and you find these pockets of people that are hardcore Cake. You know, a lot of times I'll be like, oh yeah, you listen to Cake, and they're like, what are you talking? Do I listen to Cake? What do you mean? Do I listen to Cake? I'm like the band,
Right.
But anyway, there are just so many hit songs.
Yeah.
Not mainstream modern, mainstream hits, but just freaking catchy, awesome tunes.
Yeah.
And it's something I discovered them in college, and it became a mainstay of what I've listened to since then. Love it.
And I think this is going to be one of those shows where we might not be sure how many. We might be feeling we're not going to be totally sure of the turnout. I suspect that this one's going to be huge. I think that I just have a gut feeling. It's my stupid face gets on Rammerman's residency. He's like, this Wolfpack show is really going to be underrated, and 100 people show up. So,
dude, the Wolf, man.
The Wolf. I think this one will be at that level as well. Tell us who's playing on this one.
So we got Benton Silic playing bass. He's from Anaman. Zach Mendoza in the Bob Bunce Band. Phenomenal drummer, playing drums. Chris Schramm, owner of K. Robin Guitars. He'll be on that. Eli Flynn playing guitar. Mind you, all these guys are pretty much doing vocals as well throughout. Then we got Justin Lloyd on trumpet. And then Scott Kalpin from Honey Smugglers on vibra-slap for the entire evening.
That is amazing. And the cool part about that show is I think these are all cats who've played in a residency show before.
I think that's right.
That answer was brought to you by Two Kind, an award-winning beer.
Is this the Two Kind? Oh no, it's just the Kind.
Oh, it's just the Kind.
I made the mistake.
That is a mistake. I made that
my
one.
Gosh. One time Jeff, for his birthday, he brought Two Kinds to his surprise birthday party.
You mean
he brought multiple
cans
Two Kinds
of the beer Two Kind.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I thought they were regular kinds, and I was on stage and I had about 3 of them.
Yeah, you're gonna have a bad time.
I had a great time.
Yeah, I was like, please drink Three Heads beer responsibly. There we go. I have to say it now. The week after that, you heard a little bit of it before, and you'll heard it before, and you'll hear it after as well. Yeah. This is your Tom Petty show, Wildflowers.
Yes. So, arguably, the most influential album in terms of my songwriting and just stylistically. I've always been a huge Tom Petty fan my whole life. This album in particular, my mom used to listen to a lot when I was a kid, and then it kind of for me kind of fallen by the wayside for many, many years. And then mid-20s, early 20s, mid-20s, I rediscovered this record, and that was right around the time that I was finishing up the AmeriCorps thing, and I had moved back, and I was writing songs, and this album didn't leave my CD player or my car for like 6 months. You know, Tom Petty, just as a songwriter, it's amazing. The simplicity of his songs, like he's proven to me that you don't have to be super complex to write a good song. You know, I mean, like take "You Wreck Me" for example. It's like 3 notes really for the guitar line.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing to me, and so that is a huge inspiration. Just the fact that, like, you know, because I know I'm not a great player. I know that I'm not an Elliott Smith, a John Lennon, a Paul McCartney, an Ani DeFranco, but you know, you don't have to be to write good, catchy songs. And Tom Petty kind of has like taught me that. For better or worse.
For better, for worse.
For better or for worse.
And who's playing on that show? This one's gonna be a lot of fun. Awesome musicians again. We got Kurt Johnson from the Moho Collective, past Rochester resident. We got Justin Rister from Moho Collective. Billy Martin on drums, not the Billy Martin from Medeski Martin Wood, but arguably just as good of a drummer. Billy's a monster.
Yeah, Billy is amazing. Scott Calpin, again, making another residency appearance.
Look at this.
He'll be in 3 of them.
Wow.
Actually, 4 of them because he's in Let's Duet.
Right.
But he's going to be playing harmonica.
Wow. Added to another list of things.
Yep, and then percussion as well. Then we got Willie O'Reilly on keys.
Awesome.
And then we got Eric Carlin playing guitar.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's gonna bring the house down, man.
That's gonna be fun.
We're
really looking forward to it.
That's how the kids say is gonna be a rager.
Yeah.
It's
gonna be a rager.
In air quotes. The next day, the night. Now I want to make sure I get this right here. The night they drove the brewery down.
The night they drove the brewery down. Yes.
Tell us about that.
So the band is also a huge influence on me. I think that they're one of the greatest bands to ever exist. Their sound is my soul, you know. So a couple years ago, actually, check this out. Just so happen to have this on my coffee table. I don't know if you can see that far, Rochester, but
we
this
can just put the image in after.
Oh, that's perfect. Oh, okay, cool. So, 2016, 2 years ago, right around Thanksgiving time, right around this time actually, it was the 40th anniversary of The Last Waltz, which, for those who aren't familiar, the band who was Bob Dylan's backing band, you know, they ended up making their whole career. I'm preaching to the choir here, but essentially, The Last Waltz was their final performance, where they had you know, a ton of guest performers that came on, and Martin Scorsese directed this film, and it's an amazing, incredible concert experience. You know, so anyway, it was the 40th anniversary, 2016, and Matt Rammerman essentially put together this performance at the German House.
Ram Jam, another Rochester
residency.
Look how this is all coming together.
Yeah.
Full circle.
Yeah, and we're in the Honey Hole, which is directly across the street from the German House. I'm not going to tell you where, though, so you can't come find me.
Anyway.
So
tell us.
So Matt put this thing together. It was the 40th anniversary of The Last Waltz, and the core group was Matt Rammerman, Willie O'Reilly, keyboard, Alan Murphy, who was a future resident, Chris Potter, and who am I forgetting? Kyle Vach.
That's it.
So that's the core group from the...
Future resident.
That's the core group from the Last Waltz performance. And so I've essentially recruited them to back me on this so I can live my childhood dream. Because I've been listening to the band since I was like 12 years old. And I essentially picked my favorite songs that I've been listening to since I was 12.
Right.
I discovered them... It was one of the few bands that I discovered that on my own and was like super proud of. I mean, my dad, he'd probably, you know, up on Cripple Creek, he'd probably play, you know, he'd sing along, whatever. But I don't know how I discovered it. I had a CD, I bought it, was listening on my own, and just fell in love at a young age. And so I'm super excited to be doing this. And it's going to be living a childhood fantasy, really.
That's awesome. And all the same guys who were in the original Last Waltz performance are just the same guys who are just backing you on this one.
Yes.
That's pretty righteous. And before we forget, Rita Proctor is also a future Rochester resident as well.
That's right.
I know.
I wonder what Rita's going to do. This is going to be awesome.
I know we're looking forward to all of them, but it'll be nice to chat with Rita. I love chatting with Rita.
Great.
And then the week after that, what do we have here? What did I write down? The Honey Smugglers 4-year anniversary.
Yeah, it is what it is. 4 years. That's what we're doing. We're going to throw a party,
and it's going to be it's going to be a big old raucous throwdown, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
That's right.
And that's
a party.
That's all there is in that show. And then the other thing we would like to plug here, it might not be part of your residency, but it's the big thing we're doing here. It's the Ugly Sweater Residency Jam, and it's a charity show for the Dimitri House. And this is just the thing where we're all getting together, ugly sweaters, past residents, future residents, or get together to support another great charity. So let's go down the list, make sure we got everything.
Real quick though, do you think I should wear this, or is this a fine sweater?
I think that's a fine sweater.
Okay.
But I mean, I don't own any. This is coming from a guy who pretty much wears tie-dye every day. I'm not working, so I'm gonna have to. I somehow don't have an ugly sweater.
Okay.
So I'll need to work on that. We'll both work on that. That's fine. Let's go down the list to make sure that we know all of them. Thursday, December 6th, Let's Duet. That is going to be a benefit show for the Bethany House, a shelter for homeless women and their children. The Friday after that, the 7th, Postal Service featuring Hybrid Beats, Sean Drogan, Rita Proctor, a lot of other great musicians. Next week, Thursday the 13th, Going the Distance, tribute to Cake. Thursday the 20th, tribute to Tom Petty, the album Wildflowers. Friday the 21st, this is all December in case you've lost track. The night they drove the brewery down, music of the band.
Oh, Max Flansburgh is opening that show with a Bob Dylan tribute set solo.
Okay, that's gonna be righteous.
And Steve Burke is opening the Postal Service night with a Death Cab for Cutie solo show. I'm sorry I didn't mention that, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very sorry, but it's gonna be awesome.
Well, we got it now. We got it on now. Okay. Thursday the 27th, Honey Smugglers celebrate the 4 years, and of course, Saturday the 29th, Ugly Sweater Residency Jam featuring residents past and future.
Yeah.
And that does it for. I think we'll have one video previewing the residencies, but that does it for the residence previews. Dan Gross, Brian MacDonald, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Rochester Indie Musician Spotlight, a spin-off series with Three Heads Brewing and the Rochester Residents, and we hope to see you every Thursday at Three Heads Brewing. And Fridays, whatever. Or it's the last one. I got through most of them.
I remember you so clearly, the first one through the door, and I returned to find you drifting too far from the shore. And I remember feeling this way, you can lose it without knowing. And you wake up and you don't notice which way the wind is blowing. So don't fade, no, don't fade on me. You were the one who made things different. You were the one who took me in. You were the one thing I could count on. Above all, you were my friend. So don't fade. No, don't fade on me. Now your clothes hang on the wire, and the sun is overhead. But today you are too weary to even leave your bed. Was it love that took you under, or did you know too much? Was it something you could picture, but never could quite touch? So don't fade, no, don't fade on me. So don't fade. Hey, don't fade on me. Nailed it.